Alright, it's time to talk exhaust. So this is my general plan kind of drawn out just so you guys can visualize it. We have the two headers up here, then we have a pipe that's going to be more or less straight. It's going to be pretty short, less than a foot here. And then we basically need to get this passenger side header, we need to bend it over and connect it to the Y here. After the Y is going to be the cat, because I want the catalytic converter as close to the headers as possible, but I'm only running one for the sake of space, so we need the Y first. After the catalytic converter comes the flex pipe, and then basically the car comes down here back to just behind the rear differential, and then we need to curve over, and we're basically going to have the Black Widow muffler back here, and then the stock area where the exhaust is meant to come out of the 280Z there. So right now I'm starting on this section. So I'm starting my first bend here, and we're basically going to need to swoop it over. This is also multi-dimensional, so not only does it bend this way to get to the Y, but it actually kicks up a little bit as well. I could run, I mean, a lot of people do run a dual exhaust on there. I'm trying to tuck it up as much as possible because I want to run some underbody aerodynamics in the future. So basically I'm running this one 3-inch exhaust all the way back. I mean, I'm running a naturally aspirated 6-liter. It should be fine for now, but you know, if I ever up it to a bigger cam and a lot more work, I may need to run a dual exhaust for this. But for now, we're going to go single, see how it works, and I'm going to start making these cuts. So what I've done so far is I basically climbed under the car. I realized I didn't need this part of the J bend, so I marked it here, and then I kind of eyeballed it where I need my first bend to be. I'm using tools such as this wrap to get a straight line on the straight pieces, and then good old blue masking tape to try to get a straight line on these bends. I don't have any fancy tools in this shop for doing the cutting other than a chop saw, but these bent pieces are really not great when in a chop saw. You know, they can move around and it doesn't hold it very well, at least for the rigid one that I have. So, as usual, I'm going to use my handy dandy cutoff wheel here on my Metabo grinder, and we'll see how it goes. Basically, I'm going to do little cuts out of this, probably tack this on. That way it'll hold this in place, and then measure out the next bend section. I might have to clock it slightly as well to get that multi-dimensional bend in here. But yeah, this is basically going to be my day, cutting little pieces and putting it together. I'll keep you guys updated on the way. When making these cuts, one thing you want to keep in mind is if you're using an abrasive, it's going to leave some sharp material on the inside, and not only can you easily cut yourself when you're fabricating this, but it's also going to restrict airflow. So what you want to do is take a tool. I'm using a die grinder with a little carbide cutter here, and basically cleaning out the insides of these before I'm tacking everything up. So yeah, I already have the first piece fitted, and then there's this one coming off the Y, and then I'm basically going to do a pie cut to do the difference out of a piece of straight. That's where I'm at right now. Okay, so you can see my progress so far. So I have the bend coming off of the header right there, cutting over, and going into the Y. So basically, I need to go from the Y to the other header now, and then I'm going to work my way back. Time for another update on the exhaust situation. So coming from the header now, I have a tube that comes down and connects to the Y, and then after the Y we have the Flowmaster high flow cat, and then after that we have the flex coupler. And then going back, we're pretty much in line with that indentation there. I have a piece marked and ready to cut that as well, and then gonna basically pull it back behind the rear suspension. How's it going, everyone? Little update so far. The exhaust is going pretty well. I actually finished up everything in my list of to-dos that I took you through. So far for the exhaust, I have the long piece of tubing basically that runs from behind the flex joint the rest of the way back. That's going in. I had it in before, and I actually had to take it out and shorten a piece a little bit. Then I'm figuring out the bends back by the muffler, but everything else is done, so I'll take you under the car, show you that. At this point, I'm getting tired of climbing under the car, just up on jack stands, so working in tight spaces and overhead welding to tack everything in. But once it's all tacked, I'm basically going to pull it out. You know, it's tacked really securely, 4 or 5 tacks all the way around. I'm going to pull it out and then final weld everything and put it back in. I already have one hanger in the front that I've installed as well, and I'm going to go ahead and do another one in the rear of the vehicle, and then maybe one back by the tip as well, so maybe 2 hangers back there, depending on how secure it is and how much everything moves around. But that's the update for now. I'm going to climb back under the car and I'll show you where I'm at. Alright, here's the exhaust so far coming down the bottom of the car. You can see the Y bend up there in the front that I showed you earlier, the cat, the flex pipe. Then we have the long piece I just mentioned, and that's already done. I just need to put it in place. So that's going to come down here. It's going to go through this little indent and stop right about here. So, and that bend is going to start. Here's my temporary hanger that I was using to mock up stuff. Move that out of the way. And here's the muffler sitting back here. I am going to make a heat shield basically between the gas tank and the muffler. It's just going to be some aluminum or something to try to keep the heat away from the fuel cell. But this is really the only place that this big Black Widow muffler can go. So we have one bend coming down here. So basically what's going to happen is we have this other piece. There's going to be 3 inches or so in between them. This piece is going to come here, and it's going to meet up with the straight piece of exhaust coming back. So I just need to cut up the spacer in between those, tack this piece on, and then kind of tack everything together. Almost there. So I was able to finish up the fab work on the exhaust and get it out from underneath the car. Now time to final weld everything. Here's what it looks like. 1 3-inch exhaust. The muffler at the very back. I'm not a huge fan of that, but really it's the only place it can go and be well tucked up.
1 hour later.
I've been welding on this thing for a while. Have this whole side done, so everything is at least halfway welded. A lot of sitting on the ground, kneeling, but I don't want to do it on my bench. So time to brush off this side, flip it over, and weld the other side, and then we should be good to go. Took a while for me to tune the welder. For some reason it's having a bad day, so I ended up with some shitty welds. I mean, alright, but could be better. But yeah, almost done. Should be on soon. For the O2 sensors, I have 2 different styles of bungs. I have one of these angled ones, which I tried putting on here, and it might work, but I think I can get away with the straight one actually. So straight ones are nice because they actually have this slight curve in them, so they contour perfectly to the 3-inch tube. So I think what I'm going to do is put one here. I need to angle them just slightly towards where the bottom of the car will be to get them away from the transmission. So I'll probably put one somewhere around here and the other one right around there somewhere. So I'll basically mark them, hole punch them, drill out a hole just larger than the diameter of the inner part right there, the threads, and get these lined up and welded on. I forgot to stop and do an update when I tack these on, but you can see the bungs are in place and welded on. So now we have left and right O2 sensors. Alright, time to throw this exhaust back under the car and get it all hooked up.
A few moments later.
The exhaust is back in the car. You see it go through there. It clears the rear diff. This isn't the final spot. I still need to mount it. It's basically just being held up in the back and in the middle right now. So the one thing about the way I did this is I don't like how close it is to the fuel cell. I mean, the muffler is pretty much tucked back as far to one side as I could put it, and still get it to go out the back corner there. So what I'm going to do is take some stainless and make a heat shield for the fuel cell before I final mount everything. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we should be able to put the exhaust in place. The 280Z stainless exhaust is done. Let's see, tucks up under there pretty well. And here's a hanger I made for the back here. So that keeps the muffler and the tip well aligned there. It's pretty solid. I mean, it doesn't move at all. I think I was moving instead of that exhaust. So, and then you can see the heat shield in there as well, next to the fuel cell. Hopefully that helps. I should also mention that total cost for the whole exhaust, not including the headers, was a couple $100. I think the J-bends were around 40, 35, 40 or something each. The straight is probably similar, maybe cheaper, and that includes the cat and the flex tubing and everything like that. So definitely not a big investment. If you do it yourself, you save a ton of money. You take it to an exhaust shop, you know, you're running the mill stuff, they're just going to use mild steel, and hopefully, you know, if you're lucky, get some mandrel bends. But this is a full smooth flowing exhaust for a couple $100 and a few hours of labor. Definitely a good deal in my mind, and I always have better luck with my own exhaust anyway. Thanks everyone for checking out this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it, got to see what I accomplished this weekend. You know, finish exhaust in basically just a single day, making it from J-bend, straight tubing, and from scratch basically. Came off the headers with some V-clamps, even threw in a cat, the O2 sensors and everything. So you can definitely knock out some pretty good projects in a weekend. Thanks everyone. Please feel free to subscribe to the video, check out some more, that helps me out as well. And like it, comment, let me know what I can do better, what's going well, what do you like, whatever. Take it easy.